For a manga this good, it hurts that I don't hear people talk about it as much as they should. Hell's Paradise is a dark story that's equal parts wholesome, hype, or just straight up weird in some moments, but that all adds up to the charm that just makes you want to keep reading. Not to say some authors don't like the works that they produce, maybe except the Spy Family mangaka, but reading this shows you the love and respect for the characters, the world, and the plot, so nothing gets in the way of the other. It's a manga that can at times challenge your mind in addition to being an action story. There are characters that define the term moral ambiguity just by existing, and that adds to the immersion I feel as a reader because it made me wonder what I would have done. Hell's Paradise doesn't shy away from character moments, fights, or exposition, but the thing that kinda makes it amazing is the timing. Sometimes, you can smell exposition coming from a mile away from most stories when there's a character whose goal is just to explain things to the people involved who already know what's happening, but when we get hit with the exposition in this story, it's at a time where we as the readers need it most. We needed to know what was going on, and so did the characters in the story. However, it doesn't just use it as an opportunity to just spill everything and end up backtracking halfway through. We get bits and pieces of information that's important, but we are left wanting more so we can get the full picture. We just get the tip. Now if you haven't read the story at all, it's about Gabimaru the Hollow, who had to be executed because he couldn't be killed by the methods they tried. So his executioner offers him a chance to be pardoned of all crimes by the Shogun if he finds the elixir of life on some crazy island. The Shogun decides to send criminals to the island since everyone else had died, and each criminal is given an executioner and both must return with the elixir to get the pardon. A premise like this is intriguing on so many levels because you immediately start asking yourself whether it's true or made up, and if it's true, how will they end up surviving, and also if it's true and they survive, would the Shogun stick to his promise? But it also makes you ask, is the Shogun stupid? Why would he trust convicts with an immortality elixir? You could form a tree diagram with all the possibilities and it would just keep going. The story, however, initially gave me some Hunter x Hunter Dark Continent vibes with how insane everything was and how insane everything could be. We have people going onto a random island to bring back something that may not exist, and when they finally get there, we realize why no one was coming back alive. It's because the island looked normal with a lot of vegetation till you actually look closely and you see that in each vine there's a human body, or that even the bugs have human faces. It's a kind of world that makes you want to see into the mind of the person who is able to envision it because it's both intriguing and disturbing. But the intrigue is more overpowering, so as readers we follow the characters as they get on the island and realize that no one really knows what to do, and it doesn't help that the island is immediately trying to get rid of them. So it finally hits everyone that they are in hell in a paradise. Wait, they're in a hellish paradise. Yeah. Hell's Paradise is a story that came in, did what it wanted to do, and dipped. Sometimes you can tell a show suffers from trying to do too much or introduce too many elements that end up being buried, but there was one goal in Hell's Paradise, the characters reached it, and the show left a great impression on all the readers. Yeah, the author kept introducing new characters, but they were not introduced to milk the story, they were introduced to flesh it out. Despite the fact that it's so contained, one thing that I love about the story, especially towards the climax, would be the fluctuation in the events. Let me explain. When a story is getting towards the climax, you can usually predict how things would go. But this story twisted that a bit by bringing in a morally ambiguous character whose actions could not be predicted, at least by me, all the way to the end. I think that's what makes the manga really benefit from being only about 127 chapters, and the fact that it didn't suffer from the curse of shonen, which is power escalation. It's important for an author to know when to end the story, and it seems like this end was planned in that way. A big fear of mine since I started reading a lot of manga was how the endings can ruin stories. But the way this ended was like watching an Olympic gymnast do a triple-double 4 times in the air and land in the most graceful JoJo pose you've ever seen. The character I'm talking about that came to mess everyone up in the climax was not even the highlight of the great characters in this manga. Each character that's involved in this expedition has their own reasons and motivation, and this story brings to life one of the best casts to exist. Yeah, I said it. All the different characters have different personalities that they are unbound by, and they blend well with each other. No side character is stagnant or useless, so to speak, and watching characters that were once executioner and convicts develop into an amazing set of people is something that I really wasn't expecting at all. I expected them to become close, of course, but I didn't expect to care as much as I did. This might be the best treatment of female characters I've seen in a while, like Sagiri and Yuzuriha are some of the best developed female characters in the magazine. They're not made to be a hindrance to the story or the main characters, and they teach people things about themselves that they may not have known, plus they learn a lot from others about themselves as well. But most importantly, they're not written to be great female characters, they're just written to be great characters. Each of the main cast has their moments that test their character and gives them the chance to do what they wouldn't normally do, and the story even makes them address why they're doing it. We have moments of characters wondering if choosing to live is a betrayal or if choosing to die counts as the right choice. We have guys where the word family means more than literally anything else, and characters like Chobe are literally side characters who fight against being that. He was living in his own world and didn't care that it was Gabimaru's story that we were following, and I loved it every time we saw his perspective. That's great because it doesn't make the story dependent on just one character carrying the show, anyone can. And it also doesn't matter how much screen time they had, anyone can be put in the lead and become interesting to follow because their beliefs and morality would be challenged in some way. And as a battle shonen, it had a lot of hype moments that didn't really need to rely on action. Some amazing scenes just rely on character decisions and words. Like my favorite line in the story is when someone asks Gabimaru, "Did you become stronger on this island?" And his response is, "No, I learned to be weak." The story makes it a point to show the progression of each person, and Gabimaru as the main character is someone whose growth and motivation is more wholesome than his name suggests. He was nicknamed Gabimaru the Hollow and dubbed a ruthless killer without emotion and without a heart, but his whole reason for trying to find the elixir is to get back to his wife, and that's just a big contrast to the image people have of him. As a protagonist, he's not naive, he's intellectual, crafty when it comes to battle, and not impulsive. But despite all this, he also puts people's feelings ahead of reason sometimes, and that speaks volumes about how he's developed. The characters even realize in the story that the island has changed them and they're able to accept who they are now. I'd like to credit that development to the antagonists. The antagonists are mainly responsible for that change, and they're all not one note, and their experience in the past makes their reasoning logical. Same goes for the main bad guy in the show. Even though most of the conflict is due to their actions, at some point you can blame both sides for causing it. You can clearly tell that the antagonists have a sense of morality, but the events on the island tend to challenge even them, and they know that balance is needed in all aspects of life. Balance of good and evil, right and wrong. It wasn't just them though. The main leads of the story learn lessons on moderation and are taught that true strength comes from accepting one's weakness. Balance. It's not always that a story's power system mirrors one of the main themes of the story, but it does in this case. The power system emphasizes the harmony and dissonance with elements from early on, but, and I mean this for real, it did not forget how important it was by the end. It didn't become a dick measuring contest, and I love that. Knowing how your power works and the type of person your ability counters is very important. It's a power system that doesn't require everyone to learn the same things, and it also shows how to make fights in a manga rely on friendship. Now as a battle shonen, the fights are well choreographed, have a good sense of progression, and they aren't dragged out, and I feel like every fight ends up being more than just trading blows. That's also a testament to the art and how it's able to depict both action and emotion. You can tell how the characters are feeling, you can feel the art change by becoming more or less detailed depending on the state of who is being drawn, and you can sometimes see the similarities in the style in Chainsaw Man's Tatsuki Fujimoto's. Speaking of Chainsaw Dude, this story is also one where life isn't guaranteed, and at each point in the story there's death, and at some points I just found myself praying because I was hoping someone wouldn't die, but at the same time I was thinking, well, it'd be amazing if they died. It's great to be able to read a story where the author loves his cause so much that he's able to meaningfully kill them. There is to disrespect the character's death by making them die by plot inconvenience or by completely disregarding things the character would have normally done just so they die. And sometimes death can be good in certain cases when it's used right to push the right people on a better path, and it's used well in this manga. This isn't to say the story is perfect, but it's a good 9-ish out of 10. One issue I have with it after the first read was just identifying the villains or antagonists. I knew everyone on the main good guy side, but I guess I just needed more time with the villains. Like I knew their names, but I couldn't tell who was who. I know them all now, but maybe it'd be easier with the anime. The anime just started and it's beating all my expectations out of the park, so I'm just excited to see how it ends. Anyway, that's it for me today. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.